Hey everybody, welcome to Five Features. Today we got two very special guests. We got Dennis and Rich from the infamous LaSalle Hoops podcast, the Gold Standard. If you're listening to this show, you probably have heard their show and seen them on Twitter. Check them out on Twitter at the Gold Standard, OnlyFans. It's very funny stuff, guys. How you doing? Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks for having us.
And we're sitting here on a Monday afternoon after the the Heat had a little comeback win yesterday. Do you guys watch NBA or just on more college stuff?
I'm a big time basketball fan no matter what. So as soon as the NBA finals is over, I'll be thinking about the Rumpf Classic over at Tom Goal Arena as well as the basketball tournament.
Yeah,
So
the
like
TBT.
Yeah. Yeah,
Championship at Drexel. That's
it never
exciting.
stops.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing too because people always talk about what's a better product, college basketball or the NBA, and everyone always says NBA, but then guys like us take it to that next level where it's like not just college basketball, but A10 basketball is what we're interested in. So
Yeah.
nothing better than that. So I just want to know before I get started, like I've seen you guys. I assume that you guys are LaSalle graduates because who else would start a LaSalle podcast? But how did this show come about, and when did this sort of idea come to you guys?
Yeah. I mean, when graduated, we graduated in 2013, which was a big year for us. That was the Sweet 16 year. So it
Yeah,
was really important and it stuck with us. So Rich and I kept attending games and we followed it religiously. We would try and attend as many games as possible. So it only felt natural to actually like talk about it and podcast about it and tweet about it. There was no LaSalle fans online really ever aside from the message board. So we were like,
yeah,
this is something we could probably do. I mean, we go to every game. Why not talk about it? So uh, I could say with confidence that um, we're probably the biggest LaSalle fans out there because of 2013, and then just I mean, it's just fun. It's easy to go to.
yeah.
It's fun to follow. We'll go road trips now. Like we feel like it's a really fun experience. So that's kind of sum it up as far as like how it started, right, Rich?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go a little more in detail, two of us pretty much met, on the basketball court playing pickup ball at Gola,
Yep.
and then it kind of like grew from there, where our friend group were the only eight people standing in the student section, and we continued that fanaticism. I don't know if that's a word.
I think so. I think
When
you're
we graduated and, we kept on, the traditional life. We both, live in Philly.
yeah,
So we, after that 2013 run, we kept going to games, and the podcast came out of COVID. There wasn't much to do. And we're like, oh, we saw the A10 Twitter crew, and like, Dennis was like, we could really add something here. And, we've kind of done that.
yeah. And I want to get into that. I love that stuff as well because I'm new to the A10 Twitter game. I didn't really discover it until recently, but I'm curious, like from a content perspective. I mean, you guys talk about you were there when there was 8 people in the stands and stuff, and you guys were the only guys there. And this year showed some promise for LaSalle, but is it almost a weird double-edged sword where when LaSalle has been bad, it's kind of good for business for you guys in the sense where it kind of on the content side, it's a little bit funny to. Obviously, I know you guys are big fans. You want them to win, but content wise, it kind of makes for better bits on A10
Oh
Twitter. So
yeah.
is that something you guys think about?
Oh yeah, for sure. The concept of just LaSalle being kind of middle tier, lower tier in the A10 sticks with people. So it's an easy card to pull out when they're not doing well. It's like, oh, just another day. When they win, they'll get one or two nice wins. That's when we can really unleash some fun content because it doesn't happen that often. So I would
Yeah,
say like it's kind of like when the Sixers were going through those early years of the process and
yeah,
how entertaining it was on Twitter, despite how terrible they were. It's kind of the same concept. So maybe one day they'll be good, but I mean, I'm not going to hold my breath and I'm just going to keep enjoying what I can out of these games. Getting any positives, any jokes out
yeah.
of these games is enough for me and worth it.
It's a good perspective.
Yeah, I feel like when you have fan bases in the A10, like VCU and Dayton and St. Louis, who take it very seriously,
Yeah,
and you have us, we kind of have fun with it, because I feel like you have to keep it light.
yeah,
Um, and I think Dennis wrote a piece kind of about the similar topic for like Hoop Scoop. Is that right? I feel like almost on like the same question he asked.
Yeah, a DePaul podcast. Of course, DePaul. That's like super. That's like the LaSalle of the Big East.
Yeah.
He was like, can you write a little blog about it? I just wrote a sentence or two. It basically explained what I just said. Is just like, don't freak out if your team loses. Like if you're a Dayton, St. Louis, VCU, you guys are still a mid major. Like you're still not like a blue blood or anything like that. So just tone it down if you guys lose a game or two. I mean, we deal with losses every 3 days a week sometimes. So it's like this is
Yeah.
there's all these expectations that people have. It's like temper them and maybe spin it into like a self-deprecating joke once in a while.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the guys I see going at it the most is the Dayton. Dayton's always talking about Coach Lang. I'm like, dude, worry about your guys' own team. I don't know what's going on, but what do you think makes that A10 Twitter such a hilarious place? You think it's you mentioned DePaul earlier. Is it some sort of inferiority Big East complex maybe with some of those top teams? Is it just the nature of maybe this year specifically was a down year and was kind of a trash can year? Everyone was kind of freaking out, which was fun to see. But
Personally, I think there's two things. I think there's a lot of good like main account, like a lot of good like top accounts for that school, and
yeah,
it's all schools who do not have football.
basketball
So
schools. Yep.
basketball, yeah, exactly. Basketball is number one, and they're crazed fans like us, but it's just like it is kind of it's crazy because it's like a whole unique thing that we all get each other's jokes, and yeah,
They
it,
live in towns that just have one thing, and it's probably that college
Yeah.
basketball team. So naturally, it's what they gravitate to. And yeah, you're right, Rich. Like every team has this. Like you could name a team, and we'd be like, oh, like
They,
that's the name behind it.
yeah.
So
yeah.
it's like it's glad that we're that LaSalle team. We're that
Yeah.
name behind it. I was like, there's a void here we could fill. And yeah, it's funny to note like we know the nuances in the group. Like we have a group chat with a bunch of them.
Yeah.
And so when A10 tournament rolls around, chances are we'll see a few of them in Brooklyn. And it's fun to meet them in person and chop it up because just like us, we're kind of like a sick group of individuals, I guess. Like this
Yeah.
is like
It's
who can
niche.
like yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of wanted to sort of get with LaSalle involvement. Do they like, ever reach out to you guys, or is there any like connection with like LaSalle administration or the basketball teams
Yeah.
affiliation with you guys, like trying to get you guys involved with any like content stuff or anything like that?
For sure. So every year there's like the day of giving and like fundraising. So we'll try and bring it up once in a while. We're not going to be the mouthpiece. We're not going to be like the mouthpiece of LaSalle basketball or the
Yeah,
university as a whole. We're going to try and keep it separated so that we can offer fresh opinions and thoughts. But we definitely talk with them a lot. And
Yeah.
like, for example, we went on 3 road trips, Rich.
Yep.
And so every one of those, there's not many, it's just a small group. So of course we're going to talk with them and become closer as a community. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely in communication with them and we see them a lot in person, but we're going to keep that separation where we can kind of keep content fresh and be like, uh, you know,
yeah, you
I don't
can
know,
be honest.
yeah, be honest. Exactly.
Yeah, I saw you guys just had Kale Beers, which by the way, what a great name that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a
He's amazing.
legendary. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I see you guys, and that's also you had the legend Dr. G on. So I see you guys are getting into more of that kind of space recently and trying to get some guests on. The interviewing game is kind of weird because you want the guest to talk as much, but then you look back and it's like I did one with Whitey Rigsby the other day, and it was like a 45-minute interview. I felt so bad for keeping him there for so long, but he just like kept telling these amazing stories. And I just, I wanted to keep listening to him, but then I felt bad after because, he went way over the time that I requested. But it's a whole different game when you got someone else on the line and trying to ask them different questions.
Definitely. We definitely want to do more of that. And I don't like typically they go over and because they want to. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
just shows
exactly.
like
Yeah.
you got to find a true hoop head to join these
Yeah.
podcasts. Like you don't interview somebody that doesn't care. You know that they care. They're going to go over the time because they love it. And Dr. John Giannini is no exception. He was like he went like an hour, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
like
Yeah.
Dr. John like cleared off his calendar. Cal Beers did the interview on his birthday. Like they really,
Yeah.
enjoy it.
yeah.
Definitely. And switching over to some hoop stuff, I guess. I mean, maybe we could recap some of the last season and sort of look forward to upcoming season. I know it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do that because there's still some pieces we need to look at before anything. But I guess fast forward like a year ago today, what was your guys' initial reaction to the Fran Dunphy news? I know There's some jokes about him, but also you guys, I've seen you guys talk a lot of like high praise towards Dunphy. So let's start there. Like when you guys first heard he's coming, then maybe we can move on to next year and now.
There was a lot of names out there and a lot of rumors. Like we were talking about Gallagher from Hartford and how that program was going to collapse and he was going to come to LaSalle. And oh my gosh, I mean, there was just so many names thrown out there,
Yeah,
and it was the most obvious one. The most obvious one, it was Fran Dunphy all along. He was literally there on the sideline calling games, doing the broadcasts. He cannot stay away, and it's the perfect fit because he's an alum and he
yeah,
knows what's going on at LaSalle, and he is willing to help. And I don't think any other you could have gotten the next like top coaching prospect in the NCAA. I don't think it would have mattered as much as this one does, as much as Fran Dunphy matters, because he cares for this university, unlike a hired hand or somebody that would just come in looking to like build this program back up for a personal career perspective. This is not personal for Fran. This is not a career building move
yeah,
for Fran. This is, I literally love LaSalle. I'm giving back because they gave so much to me. And that's basically how this is summarized. But if you asked me, during the coaching search that it was going to be Fran, I would have been very skeptical because of his age and he just was, he was
it's
calling
interesting.
games on
Yeah,
the sideline and came from Temple. So I just did not expect it as much, but as the days wore on, it was like more and more possible.
yeah,
Um, I'd say, after Ashley Howard, they needed someone who was familiar, with the school. Dunphy was, doing color with Cal Beers, and, he would go to Temple games and, sit up there and, he still loves it. And you could, still see that, he still has passion for it, energy. He was saying like last year that, he can't believe how fast the season went. And like at that time, I feel like it was kind of I don't know, I'm just going to say like a life preserver. They wanted I know, sometimes say safe. It's not really
yeah,
safe, but I feel like he was a safe choice after Ashley Howard, who kind of, he was the young hot assistant, and then
Yep.
that didn't work. So they needed to, change that, tactic. And I mean, I don't know
yeah,
if I was thinking that a year ago, but I think I don't know. I think I was definitely happy with the hire. I wanted Martelli, but
That's right. He was on record for
I
Martelli.
I think Dunphy was a great hire.
yeah. Did you have any perspective of it, like getting Dunphy as almost like a rental, as like almost like getting like a fifth, like a good piece for like the playoffs or something like that in the NBA? Like, what's that
Yeah,
like
I
being
mean,
like? Were you guys looking for something long term, or when you got there, I was like, well, maybe he'll be here for 1 year and kind of steady the ship a little bit.
I feel like it's like getting someone in the portal for like 2 to 3 years. Like that's what I feel. No, I feel like that's a pretty good comparison. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm getting um, name whoever player in the portal for 2 to 3 years. I think that's what it is until they get the next guy. I feel like that's how you have to view it.
yeah,
Definitely. When you look at the school as a whole, this was the smart move. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of challenges that the university's facing. So it made sense on the court and off the court in a lot of ways.
yeah. And well, you mentioned Martelli. Obviously, I'm a St. Joe's guy. I think it's
Yeah.
really went sour there, but I wonder what sort of his place on that Michigan team is. I remember when Jawan Howard got cut for punching. Who did he punch again? He punched.
Greg Gard, I think, was it Gard?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think
then
so.
Martelli stepped up and he had the St. Joe's faithful behind him. But in a similar way, do you think were any LaSalle fans like, or even you guys like who are probably used to rooting against Temple? Was it weird to sort of embrace him as the coach of LaSalle, or you already had that affiliation that?
I mean, he went there and he played there. I feel like he was a broadcaster before. I feel like people,
Yeah,
pretty much, welcomed him with, open arms.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
When
it
you
was a
looked at what Ashley Howard did, it was like, I don't know. We felt like we were at rock bottom again. So
Mhm.
it's like,
can you just
honestly,
can you
it
describe
felt
that
right.
situation because I'm kind of unfamiliar with that with the Ashley Howard, the
I
whole his
mean,
tenure.
yeah, you saw a lot of guys leave, a lot of guys come in and come out. Like, his in-game decisions were difficult to swallow sometimes. And quite frankly, I felt like he lost his cool a lot.
Yeah.
I think he was in an unfamiliar situation. He came from Villanova where a lot of things were easy.
Yeah.
And
Now
he
he's
was
back, right?
thrust. Yeah, now he's back at Nova. He'll be on the bench. I can't believe it, but it's like he never left. And when he came to LaSalle, I don't know if he was necessarily prepared for the challenges that lay ahead for him. Not only that, but you saw a president that left the LaSalle University, and now the athletic director has left. So it just felt like very unstable, and 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 you wanted that rock. You wanted something solid because of the way that people came in, players, coaches, the way people came in and out.
Yeah.
Like they had Pat Chambers on the sideline for a minute. Like he was like hanging
Oh
out
yeah.
as like a co-assistant coach. It was
Special,
really
yeah.
weird. Special assistant to the general
Yeah.
manager. I don't even know
Whatever the title was.
who knows what he was doing, but like it just was very questionable at times. And you wanted stability because the program as a whole felt very shaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when you have a recruiting class like he did, like his first recruiting class, he had Sharif Kenny, Ande Hakeem, Christian Ray, and Brandon Stone. And when you have all of those guys, none of them played there to their senior year. By the time Ashley Howard was, still there, his last season, the only one who was left was Christian Ray. Sharif Kenny was, getting ready to transfer to Bryant. Ayinde was already at UMass Lowell, and Brandon Stone was already at Robert Morris. And I feel like you can't build a stable like that first when everyone's gone. I
Yeah.
feel like it's not a it's
Yeah.
not a good there's no building blocks.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. I know you're both not only LaSalle, but just general A10. But I was talking to somebody last week, I think McCall, and I was asking him this about how A10 is sort of like weirdly positioned in the middle of this whole portal thing where, you can get a guy who may step up to the A10 from a different league and, make impact right away. But, a team like LaSalle or St. Joe's, you guys have noticed it with Nickelberry, guys a good year and just gets plucked from, those major schools up top. So where do you sort of see the landscape of this league and even not even necessarily where LaSalle is, but just kind of the A10 and the NIL and transfer kind of world?
It's an awkward spot to be in. There's a
Yeah.
lot of challenges. Some of these teams, thankfully, have better NIL programs than others, so you'll
Yeah.
see them obviously outperform in the recruiting market. But this is, I think we're going to see a lot more international guys come over to the A10. It'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
like Davidson for every single team. LaSalle is definitely going to become one of those teams that goes international because we can't pay everybody.
Yeah.
And that's NIL does not work for, it's not allowed for international students. So
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
yeah, I think we're going to be a Davidson because they just rake up all the like New Zealanders and European folks. They just come right over there, and we need to establish a pipeline. They did just hire LaSalle hired a guy that specializes in overseas recruiting. And so we've already seen a guy come through from Sweden who's pretty good. But I
Yeah.
think that the A10 or the rest of the A10 is going to adopt that philosophy. If they can't pay them, they might pay, their top two guys with NIL money to keep them around or recruit. But you got to round out your team and you got to have a full roster. And no, I mean, Dayton or VCU maybe aside, I think that a lot of these teams are going to have to look elsewhere or just hit that transfer market hard where Nickelberry or somebody comes in that maybe didn't do as well at a Power Five conference.
Yeah. Rich, do you think that could sort of widen the gap between those top teams in the A10 and the bottom teams?
I feel like it does, but I was just gonna say with NIL, I feel like it's very interesting how it's playing out in terms of I feel like now these mid-major teams like the A10, they're waiting for all of these, people in the portal to make their decision if all the big five or the Power Five schools they all go. Because I feel like right now everyone's waiting, to see what's left out there. I think LaSalle had a few spots. I'd love to know, the breakdown of how many spots all these teams have with the A10. But I feel like the question you were asking, I feel like it can make, a difference.
Yeah.
I feel like VCU has a ton of transfers this year, with the new coach, Ryan Odom.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can really make, a 1 year impact. You see all the guys Villanova are bringing in. I mean,
Yeah.
they look like a power on paper.
Yeah, seeing Tyler Burton go there was pretty cool. I was interested to see that, and then also they got our boy the St. Joe's commit, Hakeem Hart. So
Yeah.
they should be pretty fun next year. But when LaSalle went on that run last year, was that like the middle of the season? I think it was like when they ran off a few wins and they were looking pretty good. Obviously the postseason as well, but St. Joe's had a very similar run. They went like 6 of 7 in the middle of the A10, and
Mhm.
I remember feeling good about it, but I was also like something doesn't really feel permanent about this. It feels very streaky and it feels very like temporary. So I guess you guys sort of had that similar feeling, or did you have more confidence when LaSalle kind of put those wins together?
I mean, they were very, very streaky last year.
Yeah,
Like, I forget the first couple stretch of, I think it was like the first couple stretch of A10 play. It was like, I forget what it was. But then it was like they lost five, they won five, they lost five, and then they won, I think, two before, losing to Fordham. So they were very,
yeah.
very streaky. And people will give us, a little, hard time because we went on 3 road trips and we didn't come away with any victories. But yeah, they were very, very streaky last year. But
Yeah.
I feel like they were all very, very, some of them were, pretty close. Like they played Rhode Island pretty tough at Rhode Island. They had that game, they were up a lot and they just, kind of crumbled. And
Yeah,
the Mason game was very, very close as well.
yeah,
Yeah. I feel like we're a team that was able to compete with a large part of the A10 this year, which is not something I expected in his
Mm.
first year.
Yes.
yeah,
So I'll take those streaky 5 off, 5 on game because I mean that's all you can ask for in his first year. Now the challenge is making the leap. I don't know if we're going to see a similar streaky LaSalle team next season. My thoughts are probably yes.
yeah,
Um, and sometimes these schedules are kind of wild too. I will say, like we would play. What was it? I feel like there was on the schedule there was like maybe 3 games at home in a row, and then 3 games on the road in a row, or it would alternate home, road, home, road, home, road. It really all depends on that schedule. You can tell like it affects the guys that have to
yeah.
study and all that and go on the road and go to fly to St. Louis because you can only get there via plane. Like it's just insanity sometimes the scheduling. So I would say that's a huge piece too.
You think like the streakiness of the team was it sort of indicative to the play style of like kind of letting those two guards kind of get at it and play a certain style of play. I mean that might be a little bit of a stretch, but
Hmm. Um, I don't know. I'm trying to think like what happened at that point if anyone was like hurt.
yeah,
I don't know if they were. Uh, I don't know. I feel like you got.
The reliability was there. That was our most reliable asset on the team. And I think when we lost, it was because of the front court. It was because of a lack of rebounding,
yeah.
the basics, like getting the basics.
Free
Um,
throws.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't get us started on free throws.
Oh, I know that
That
game.
Boxing.
yeah, we definitely mucked it up. Like we made these games slower paced on purpose. We as if the Dunphy thing was it was simple, just low turnovers, rebound to the best of their ability. Which I would say we were a pretty small team overall,
Yeah,
and so we played bigger than we were. You combine those two things, and we were close with most of these teams. Um, and I just think that if that's the formula, I mean that is the formula. If you're LaSalle, that's the formula. Just limit the turnovers, control what you can control, and it's simple. But the roster as a whole was lacking, and he
yeah,
made do with what he had.
yeah. Speaking of the roster, I mean, we just talked about the two guards, Brantley and Brickus. I heard Beers was saying the killer bees. You guys are cracking up about that, and then I don't know who was just calling him fire and ice. I think that might have been Dr. G. I don't know who
I
said
haven't
that,
heard that
but
one.
um, is that style of play, kind of one that you guys like to watch? And what are you like sort of hoping from those guys? And were you surprised that they actually didn't transfer or even look around?
I don't know. After that Fordham game, when Brantley said that he loves playing for Coach Dunphy and he'd run through a brick wall for him, I was like, they're both coming back. They're right next to each other, and Brantley said it, and Brickus was like nodding his head. I was like, I feel like
Yeah,
that's like confirmation right there. I'm like, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
yeah,
I feel
they're
like
awesome.
LaSalle. Oh, sorry, we're gonna say.
No, I was just saying they're awesome. Go ahead, Rich.
I was just like, whenever I feel like LaSalle is always known for having like pretty good guards. When you go back to Sweet 16, they had Garland and Duran and
Duran, yeah,
Sam Mills and Ramon Galloway. So having two guards, even though they're smaller, they're very very tough and they're going to give 110%. And I feel like it really was, fun to watch. You sprinkle in a shooter like Nickelberry, and you have a slasher like Gill. They had, a good, complement of guards.
Yeah, St. Joe's is sort of built on that same foundation. I mean, obviously going back to I was saying you can't watch a St. Joe's broadcast without hearing those great Jameer Nelson teams
Yeah.
or some sort of reference toward the flapping mascot. Is there a LaSalle like idiom that always occurs in every broadcast, or
Mhm.
probably
Well,
Gola, right?
we with the goal arena, I don't know if they'll talk about the pool. That's our job, is to talk about the pool. But we got Kale, who goes, if you listen to our radio broadcast and he hits a three, you heard Kale will go pow, and
Yeah,
that's about it. I mean, you've got Bill Raftery. People will probably bring that up.
yeah,
He's a legend, LaSalle alum.
yeah,
And the Sweet 16 team.
The
But what
national
else?
championship.
Yeah, the national championship in 1954. We were all there. We remember it vividly.
yeah,
The NIT championship. I mean, who could forget the golden years of LaSalle basketball?
definitely. And yeah, so I guess sort of going back. I mean, I'm not, obviously you guys are more plugged in, but I know you. So you lost the Drame twins. What kind of presence were they on the team? I know they were like two kind of big bodies that were banging around down there. But what are those guys? What do you miss right away from those guys? Some physicality.
I feel like those guys, were, very, very tough. They were both, 6'7", and they, played bigger in their size. They were very versatile. Even though sometimes it was like frustrating because whenever they get the ball in offense, they, pump fake almost every time you knew it was coming. But they played very, very hard. I feel like they always left it on the floor. They'll miss their, defense, and they'll miss that kind of, versatility. They play three. They play pretty much a 3 through the 5. They wanted to go small and have someone who can kind of move up the floor. They'll miss that. They'll miss that. They were, two really valuable pieces.
It's a shame that they're going to a rival, basically. Like
team will play.
I guess they're going truly like mercenary style now, like the brothers in arms, and they were just that was cool to have a 2-for-1 deal, basically, right? Like we got two very capable guys immediately, in a time of uncertainty and like who's LaSalle going to get next. We got two solid players. At the end of the day, when both of them had a good game, I felt like we were in a position to win, and I thought they were outstanding. I will say that I've seen multiple times when Brickus and Brantley would get on him for not, making the right play or shooting. Honestly, just saying shoot the damn ball.
Yeah.
They said you could see it there every time they passed them the ball. They were like so angry they couldn't finish it because they just pump faked to death. So I'm not going to miss the pump fakes like Rich said, but I am going to miss their versatility and their positivity. They were all like, I
really
felt
good
like
kids.
they were even keeled. Like I did not see them get frustrated one bit throughout the season.
Yeah, for sure. And I know, LaSalle, November 2023, Cameron Indoor. Is that going to be a goal trip this year? I think it might have to be. The Duke Blue Devil Challenge. LaSalle is playing at Cameron. I don't know, because if you guys go there, like, and it's against LaSalle, I don't know if you'll have the same type of energy in that building for that preseason tournament. But what do you guys think? Am I spoiling something right now, or?
Kind of, sort of. Yeah, no, we're planning to go. We're, bringing a few other people.
Awesome.
We're really excited about it. I'm curious about the turnout because it's like 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure, students will still be there.
Oh yeah. They got it,
But, I feel like, when I was younger, I was, a big Duke fan. So I've always wanted to go there. So I know a lot of us, are really excited. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah, we already booked our Airbnb, and we might parlay it, like drive down, maybe stop at Virginia Tech for a football game, maybe stop at Chapel Hill, see any kind of sporting event there, check out both museums. They got the North Carolina Museum, they got the Duke Museum. We're gonna make a weekend out of it, even though it is on a Tuesday. The game itself is a Tuesday, so yeah, that'll definitely hurt. I don't know if it'll be even televised. Like it might just be on ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
And which is fine. I don't care. I mean, will we shock the world? Everyone, I don't know. We'll see. Interesting thought, or an interesting part of this is that a LaSalle alum is the GM of the men's basketball team. She played lacrosse at LaSalle University. Her name is Rachel Baker.
Wow.
And now she has elevated herself to become the first ever, which in this NIL era, it's the first ever general manager of the Duke men's basketball team. So I think that lended a bit
That's
a
cool. Yeah.
reason why we were playing them. Not to mention Dunphy had a great relationship with Coach K, and Temple played Duke, I don't know, 3 or 4 times in that time frame.
beat
And
him too.
Dunphy beat him. Yeah.
Yeah. And you can tell Duffy's a guy that has national respect. And I think we're in this Philly circle and we just know him as we know him. But even like when you're hearing other broadcasts or other coaches talk about him with such reverence, and that just
Charles
goes like,
Barkley.
yeah. Oh yeah. What was he? Well, he said his quote the other day, right?
Yeah. He's like, I've never seen somebody say that they rebound too hard or
played too much defense.
Play too much defense when they're talking about shooting too much or dribbling too much. They never say anything about playing too much defense or rebounding too much, which is that's a great way to look at it. And that's how Dunphy plays all of his teams, especially LaSalle.
Yeah. And I get one last question for you, I guess. I mean, so maybe some realistic goals or hopes for next season, or if it's too early to tell, but just kind of outline like what would be like make you guys happy or what would you be content with?
I want to hear what Rich has to say first.
Yeah, he made a bad face.
He usually throws out an interesting prediction. I remember, Rich, your stretch goal one of these years was like make the NIT, and we didn't even like sniff the postseason of any kind.
It's hard to do now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, what do you say, Rich?
I don't know. A stretch goal is tough because I don't know. I'll just say what I want to say. I feel like my stretch goal for next year would to be to finish to make the semis of the A10 tournament. I mean, we made the quarters last year, so I feel like with Brantley and Brickus back and Dunphy back, and I know that's tough because I'm not just going to say I feel like I can't say quarters because they made it last year. I feel like I have to go a step above that, so I'm going to say semis. Like that would be my goal. I mean, that's a lot because I know St. Joe's is going to be very, very good. Duquesne's going to be very, very good, and then you've got the VCUs.
Deron Holmes coming back.
What do you say?
Deron Holmes coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
yes, so it's going to
news.
be tough, but I'll still say that that's my goal.
I agree with Rich in that sense of the postseason. My side goal here is to make it to the championship game at Wells Fargo Center. I feel like we could beat Temple.
New plug.
We could definitely beat Drexel. I feel like that's our pod. So if we beat Temple and Drexel, we are in the championship game against Nova, Penn, or St. Joe's, and I feel like that's obtainable. Temple has just always been an issue for us, but I think Dunphy can get it done with their flux. They're they're changing of the guard over there. I feel like this is a ripe opportunity to get to the championship game at the Wells Fargo Center.
That's a good take. I wasn't expecting the Wells Fargo plug there. I like it. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming on and talking some hoops. Hopefully we can do it again, but I really appreciate it. It's a great time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man.
Awesome.